Hello my beautiful souls, welcome to our special collaboration video on healing the mother and father wound. Today I'm incredibly honored to introduce a compassionate psychologist, Aurora, who will be guiding us through the emotional and psychological aspect of healing these really deep-seated wounds. Aurora brings a wealth of knowledge and understanding to this topic, and her insights are invaluable for anyone on a journey of self-discovery and emotional healing. As Aurora speaks about healing these wounds from a psychological perspective, I'll be performing a heart chakra and self-love healing using the powerful energies of dragon alchemy. This practice will help transmute all negative energies associated with these emotional wounds into pure unconditional love. By combining Aurora's compassionate approach with the transformative power of dragon alchemy, we aim to create a space of deep healing and self-love for you. Together, we will work to release the negative patterns and emotions tied to the mother and father wound, allowing you to embrace a life filled with love, peace, and wholeness. So I thank you for joining us on this healing journey, and let the transformation begin.
The mother wound and the father wound. Let's right now try to wrap our minds around what it is, how it plays out in us, and begin thinking about how to heal it in this combined effort that we are doing and giving to you with compassion-focused psychology, quantum healing, and sound. I hope you enjoy it. Let's begin. The mother wound and the father wound. Essentially, that is a result of the impressions left on us from misattuned caregivers. Misattunement, how do we understand this? Small misattunements happen all the time between all human beings, and very often also with very small human beings, infants, who have no language, no way of communicating in detail what's wrong. So misattunement happens a lot. Misattunement can become too much, however, or too consistently. And then something begins to happen in us as human beings. It might be connected to abandonment, physical abandonment, emotionally abandoned. It might be that we were parentified. We were treated as a friend or taken by our parents, either the mother or the father, into playing the role of the friend. The companion, the confidant, whatever it was, it has to do with the parent being aware of their emotional needs and wanting their emotional needs met through you, and not meeting your emotional needs, my emotional needs, our emotional needs in return. That would be a parentification. You might have felt rejected or been rejected, harshly or often. You might have been seen for only one thing, which is like being viewed as a one-dimensional person, maybe for your achievements, maybe for your sweetness, kindness, maybe for your availability to help, but that you were viewed through very specific and maybe only one thing. You may have been criticized, blamed, guilted, or shamed. This all has to do with not being seen and not being recognized as a real person who is inherently good, who has needs, who has an emotional world that matters. All of this is what it's about. You were not seeing what you were experiencing, what I was experiencing, all of us. It didn't matter, it didn't register, it wasn't important, or it was downright a nuisance. Now we begin to move into misattunement that is too much, too often. Why does this even matter? Because it happens all the time, and we were always like this. It's very difficult to care for an infant. So why does it matter so much to us? Well, it does because human beings are one of the most social species on the planet. We are born into this world unfinished. We've just started. We have no defenses. We can't walk, we can't speak, we can't eat regular food. We are completely dependent on the people around us. And they might be the father, they might be the mother, they might be none of them, or one of them. So this is why I'm using the term primary caregivers, because not all of us grew up with a mother or a father or both. So the primary caregiver is the one that we interact with the most as we are growing up. In a highly, highly social species who are born unfinished and need to grow and evolve and develop, the way that they see us, the way that they choose to interact with us, whether they are themselves in distress or anxious or full of shame or whatever it was that happened for them, it will color the way that they interact with us, the way that they understand us, because this is how trauma works. And this is also why we talk about the mother wound and the father wound very much in generational terms, because this moves from one generation to the next, until someone stops it. I hope this makes sense, that this is how it happens, this is why it wanders into the next generation. It's because it will color and kind of make all of what you're experiencing be seen through a specific lens that is the one that you grew up with, that I grew up with. And it's quite hard to detect what our own primary learnings are, because they're so deep. And here's another thing that we need to take into account. Humans are born very, very much unfinished. We are not finished developing, growing our minds until we are about 21, 22 years old. We do not develop a sense, a real understanding that we are an actual individual until the age of 2.5 years old. Imagine the amount of learning that you did before you were 2 or 2.5 years old. All of this just went straight into your system, straight into my system. Without any filters, without any defenses. This is pure learning about who I am, who you are, and what it means to be in this world. And it sits beneath language, it sits under language, so it's quite hard to detect it and to speak about it, to find the right words, to communicate what it is that we know. We know it's in there, it's a feeling, we can feel it, especially physically in our bodies. It lives very much in our bodies. But to communicate it when it's pre-language, that's difficult. And we usually need somebody's help to do this. So, we become aware of who we are. About 2.5 years old. We have learned a ton before we are 2.5 years old. And we are very, very social. We have entire brain systems wired for other people, measuring ourselves against other people, seeking out other people, connecting to other people. We're so social. The whole language skill set that we have is enormous. So what is it that we need then? Now I talked about misattunement. What is it then that we need? And I'm going there because herein lies the solution. What we need are two things. We need a safe haven. That means we need comfort, we need safety, we need protection. When we're distressed, when we get scared, when we're in doubt, we need a safe haven. And we also need a secure base, something that is stable and supportive, a foundation from which we can venture out into the world and explore and take risks and tolerate not knowing, tolerate maybe a little bit of fear, and then we can go back to our safe base where we get security, we get support, and we have a foundation. So this is what we need to develop a sense of us being okay in this world and being okay with other people, of being able to ask for help and being able to receive help. It's very different where we have our main problems. Compassion flows in 3 directions. For some people it is, maybe you recognize this in yourself. We have compassion flowing from me to you. We have compassion flowing from you to me. And then we have compassion flowing from me to me. Just take a breath for a small moment and recognize, where is your primary problem? Most people have got no problem with giving help, giving attention, being there for other people. A lot of people have problems receiving help. It has a lot of anxiety is attached to it. I'm going to get in trouble for this in some way. I'm going to be seen as weak. I'm going to be seen as a child. I'm going to be taken advantage of. I'm going to be used. And then there's the other one that's usually the problem. From me to me. And just feel, where is your primary blockade? So me to me would be being attentive to my needs, reacting to my boundaries when they show up, providing myself, now that I'm a grown-up, with what's needed to have a safe haven, to feel safe and protected and comfort when I'm distressed, to calm myself, to soothe myself, or the secure base. stable, supportive foundation that I can always return to when I'm out exploring, trying new things, being daring. Now I give this to myself, and that can be connected to being indulgent, selfish, lazy, arrogant, having an inflated ego in some kind of way. And these are all the anxiety showing up, trying to tell us not to go there because we have a memory of, we have lived that was at one point very uncomfortable and very dangerous. So anxiety is showing up, trying to prevent us from going there. And the first one I said, from me to you, might also have attached to it, don't do that, don't be kind, don't be generous. You're going to be taken advantage of. You're going to look like a fool. You're going to be a fool. All kinds of things like this. This is all anxiety showing up, trying to prevent us from not doing this. And this is what we need to heal our father wound and mother wound. We need to reparent ourselves. Essentially, reparenting ourselves means exactly what I just said. Creating for you a secure base and a safe haven. Something that's not too compromised. I'm just thinking about this. Something that's not too challenging is a great place to start, because this is challenging. This has deep, deep roots, and it's going to try to prevent us from going there because of very, very old memory. It's something that moved into us at a very young age. Maybe it continued all the way up through our teenage years, maybe even it's still going on. There are a lot of good reasons for fear to show up. And now it's living in us as adults. It is now living in us. And every time it comes up for me, every time it comes up for you, it is us running old patterns and old learnings, even though the situation is not like this anymore. But it becomes very difficult for us to recognize the situation has changed. You are now an adult. You can now choose the people that you surround yourself with. You can now afford yourself kindness and comfort and safety and encouragement. But that is a difficult place to get to. You have to get through whatever it was that you learned first. For the old patterns to stop playing themselves again and again and again. And that's the very unfortunate thing about this. We are, as adults, we are now doing it to ourselves. And a feeling that goes with it is usually, I'm not good enough, I'm bad, I'm unworthy, like a fundamental, basic feeling from which we live our lives, appreciate situations, the way that we see ourselves, the way that we see others, the way that we see which options we have and do or do not have. It's all colored by this fundamental, basic feeling. And if we have mother and father wounds, or as I like to call it, primary caregiver wounds, they will probably be informed by some degree of not good enough, bad, or unworthy. So let's move into what to do about it. I have already given you hints. Safe haven, secure base, reparenting yourself, and knowing that whatever happened to you, you were a child of an extremely social species that needed other people for you to shape the way that you were to function in the world, the way that you were to understand your place in the world. You're totally and utterly dependent on other people for this. You did not do this to yourself. And, very important point, this is something that is learned. And then it's intertwined with the systems that human beings have for processing emotions, for processing experiences and thoughts. It's interwoven with that. The good news here is it is learned. And if it is learned, it can be unlearned. We can learn something new and replace it. So let's talk about that. First order of business is for you to allow yourself to know your story. It might not have been all bad. For most people, it's not all bad. For some people, and trust me, I have met those people, it is all bad. It was all bad. But for most people, it was not all bad. That can make it tricky, because if it wasn't all bad, then there was also something good. And can I in my mind hold the fact that my parents could be both good and bad? That's a lot for a brain to handle. So what I'm asking you to do, inviting you to do, is to hold the fact that your parents, your primary caregivers, maybe they were both good and bad while you were growing up. And maybe sometimes with the same situation, they could be good one time and then bad another time, which is extremely confusing. But allow yourself to know your story, the whole thing, and that can bring up a lot of pain. And I want to say about doing the deep work, please know that if you think about something that happened to you, something that you are trying to work through, something that was too much, it was overwhelming, it was hurtful, it was frightening, when we think about it, when we bring it into our conscious minds, the emotion that goes with it comes up too. Please know that you are not creating a new emotion by thinking about what happened. You're just feeling the emotion that went with it when it happened. Because sometimes we can get this feeling that if I bring this up, if I go into this, I will be overwhelmed. I will never stop crying. I will never stop being angry. It's just going to keep on because it feels like I'm adding to it. Please know that you are not. It's coming up and you're feeling it because the emotion goes along with the experience. You're not creating a new one, and it will settle. So don't worry about that. I know it comes up and it's very, very understandable. Also, know that whatever reactions you are having, whatever symptoms of the mother and the father wound that you are dealing with today, it might be going into freeze, it might be phoning, it might be having a big problem with any kind of authority, it might be anything that you're dealing with. Please know that there is always an explanation. There is always an explanation. From working with people doing deep work for 24 years, I will say with total conviction there is always a reason. Once in your life, what you're doing now was functional. It may have been necessary. It may have been the only choice. It was still a perfectly natural reaction to what was going on. Please know this. There's always an explanation. Please also know that you are human. I am human. And while we are the most extraordinary, wonderful, exceptional beings, what we have, what we come with, are needs, boundaries. And those are very often the things that got us into trouble. They are completely natural. They are supposed to be there for our own protection. And for us, I'm reminding you again to provide ourselves in grown-up life with a secure base and a safe haven. To be that for ourselves, we need to listen to the alarm system. And we need to feel our needs, recognize them. We need to feel our boundaries and recognize them and act on them. So this comes with being human. It is completely natural and it comes with the territory. Then we need to start investigating. I need to start investigating my needs and my boundaries. Figure out when they show up. Figure out what kind of knowledge are they drawing on. What kind of knowledge is circulating in my system to make me interpret this situation in this way. To make me feel that this reaction to this situation is a good fit. Maybe I'm being informed by some very old knowledge that's not really relevant anymore, but I'm still carrying it around. Because I'm human. I have an enormous capacity for remembering things. I have an enormous capacity for putting things together in a pattern. So investigate it. If you can find it in yourself, try to find a little bit of curiosity. For curiosity is the most beautiful feeling to go investigating yourself with, because it's non-judgmental. It doesn't have an opinion about whether the outcome should be this or that. It's just curious. I wonder what it is. So curiosity in self-exploration is your best friend. And finding out who you really are, the authentic version of you, through the shame, through the guilt, through the anxiety, you are there. I promise you. You are there somewhere, and you are worth knowing. You are worth discovering. You are worth having freedom to be lived. When you have identified a need or a boundary, done all of this work, sifted through guilt, blame, shame, anxiety, and you found out, actually, this is what I need. When I get in this situation, this is what I need. When I get scared, I need for people to become really calm. That's one word version. When I get scared, I need for people to take an interest, to actually ask me what's going on. That's not the need. Could be anything, whatever it is that you discover is your need. Then you try to identify the smallest possible step you can take towards having this need met. Maybe by yourself. Or maybe it's something that requires another person to interact with you. And here I have a big prayer that I'm sending out to you. Choose the safe people. And you know who they are. Always choose the safe people when you're doing vulnerable work. If you are in doubt, if anybody can be a safe person for you, you have you. Then write it down. Start journaling on it. It's an incredibly effective tool. So when you have identified a need and identified the smallest possible step you can take, so you do not overwhelm yourself, you do not pressure yourself, you're not hard, you're not pushy, you're not in any kind of way being aggressive with yourself. You be all kind. Be your own support system, always. Know that anger and know that grief will show up. Grief at experiencing, reconnecting with the former version of you that had to learn this. Anger at the people who did not provide for you a safe haven or a secure base. Anger and grief will show up, and that's okay. That is what happens. These are the emotions that goes along with becoming compassionate towards yourself. Oh, and what you have to deal with, what you have to go through. It's not going to stick forever. It might take some time. But it's perfectly natural, it's perfectly fitting. That's the emotion that fits. It's okay. The next step is really important. The compassionate approach to yourself. This is when you start practicing this, and it starts with your imagination. A wonderful, abundant, crazy imagination that can conjure up worlds that you've never seen, people that never existed. Your imagination is one of your best tools, because what it can also conjure up is the best friend you ever had. The best friend, protector, supporter, and caregiver that you ever had. Whatever it is that when I say these words, you can feel which one of them you're connecting with. Go with that. And imagine that you have that amazing creature right next to you the whole time. They're there for you. They have your best interest at heart all the time. And they do it in a supportive, encouraging way because they believe in you. Try to imagine a creature like that. And then when you get into a pressured situation, when you can feel that your emotions are starting to boil up, you can begin practicing asking yourself, what would my compassionate creature have to say about this? How would that creature see this situation? What would they notice about it? What would they support me in? What would they think was the best possible path for me right now? They know me, they know your needs, they know your boundaries. It knows your needs, it knows your boundaries. Sometimes you have more than one popping up. I have two. Some people have a whole choir. And that's just perfect. Whatever you need, your imagination can provide it in your grown-up life. What a miracle. So use it. There's a reason children have imaginary friends. It's because it works. So use it. It's right there, your best tool. Begin to imagine your compassion other, your compassion figure, your compassion friend, and start to listen to it when you get pressured. Maybe even listen to it during everyday life when you're not pressured, to make it strong, because the thing is, the more you practice it, the stronger it gets. Imagine what it would do when you're just walking home with your groceries. It would probably help you. It would probably smile at you. Whatever it is that you need, you can feel it. You can feel it. Try it as best you can. And also feel it in your body, because do not forget that a lot of our experiences have a physical component to it. We have the neural network stretching out all across our bodies. It's not as a secret anymore. Our whole bodies are filled with the neural network, especially actually our stomachs. So try to feel the feeling in your body. What would you look like if you had your best friend and protector right there next to you all the time? How would your body posture be? How would you hold your head? What would your facial expression be? What is the sound of your voice when you're that protected, that cared for, and that safe? Imagine it, feel it in your body. Try to walk around as if you actually had that friend right next to you. When you're walking down the street, when you're walking from one room to the other, try to walk as that, embody it. Then it becomes really strong. And finally, here I will say, this is on a more philosophical level. If you're struggling with thoughts of not being worthy, of not being good enough, of not being lovable, I will ask you this. What small baby was ever born into this world unworthy, unlovable, or not good enough? I ask you sincerely, what small baby ever entered this world throughout history that was just not worthy? I am pretty sure that your answer will be none. So neither are you, and neither am I. What happens after we are born is a whole bunch of lessons, because we are learning creatures, highly learning creatures. We suck up everything like a sponge, and then we start to learn. Whatever you learn from being rejected, being ignored, being criticized, being seen for only one thing, being parentified, whatever happened to you, what you learned from that has everything to do with your primary caregivers, and nothing at all to do with you. Please hold that thought for a moment. It had nothing to do with you, and everything to do with them. This is not your fault. And I will say it again, this is not your fault. It is up to you to try to work through it and fix it and make it better for you. Not because the responsibility falls to you, but because you are the only one who can do it. doesn't change the fact that even though it is up to you to change it, it is not your fault that it got like this. And you were a baby born into this world. I was a baby born into this world. Fully worthy of love. Worthy of knowing. Worthy of being close to. Worthy of help. Worthy of interest. And highly, highly lovable. So here finally, please take a moment to let that resonate in your system. Lots of things might be showing up, lots of resistances to seeing that this is a fact. You were born lovable, worthy, and good enough. And then things happened. It does not change the fact that this is what you are. Good enough, worthy, and lovable. From my heart, I wish you all the best joy,